Today's show, like every day, is brought to you by the Oxford Exxon on Highway 6 West there in Oxford. Stop in to get a daiquiri, $3.99 for the smallest one, as big as 44 ounces if you so wish. Take advantage of that. The lunch specials that are $4.99 with 2 sides of bread, 32-ounce drink, or the ribs. You call ahead or just show up. They'll pack them up, have them ready to go, wet or dry, whatever you like there with the Oxford Exxon. You can also save money at the pump with the Speed Pass Plus app, the mobile rewards program, and much more. And I am in the Clark Ford studio this morning. You know, that's 662-257-1900. Let Corey be your truck guy. Let him be your car guy. Just let him start the process for you, even if you're not looking for a vehicle right now. He'll give you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours when you call him. You take it, you're shopping around, or you just go ahead and make the deal right there with Corey. And you know that when you mention the podcast, you get $500 off there with Clark Ford. So with that, we'll get on to the show.
From the Clark Ford studio in Oxford, Mississippi, MBW Digital proudly presents the Oxford Exxon Podcast.
I'd say thanks for tuning in, but why am I going to give you a round of applause for something that you're supposed to do, to be frank?
And now, here are your hosts, Chase Parham.
That broadcast school has really paid off.
And Neal McCready.
I deserve to be on TV.
Welcome into this Monday Oxford Exxon Podcast. Chase Parham, I'm in the Clark Ford studio. Neal on the road, headed back from Chicago, somewhere in Illinois right now. Apologize for any kind of road noise or anything, but it's gotten a lot better. I think you'll be fine over the next hour or so as we talk to you on this July 22nd. As media days are over, we're in that last little lull before football camp starts. The first couple days of August is when everybody report, and it'll kind of really get going prior to the start of the season there at the end of the month, the first part of September. Because it's, Neal, it is peak off-season. It's peak close to football, but not football, when the top story of the day is simply whether or not beds being turned into, or lockers turned into beds at LSU is a good thing, bad thing, or no thing at all.
Yeah, I saw that. I find it difficult to believe that a lot of players are going to spend an incredible, inordinate amount of time sleeping at their locker. It probably makes sense for camp season when they probably will, because, you know, that time in August when you're up there, or down, in their case, down there, and you're in camp and school hasn't started and the 20-hour rule, as silly as it is, isn't into effect yet. You know, those guys spend their entire day for the better part of 3 weeks in the football building. And so, you know, I think as medical people have discovered how important sleep is and all of those things, yeah, it probably gets used then, but it's hard for me to believe that over the course of the season that's anything more than some sort of a recruiting tool.
It is absolutely a recruiting tool. It is kind of just the end thing right now to pimp out locker rooms as much as possible, is to make them whatever you can make them out of. Because here's what I find interesting about it, is that a lot of schools have done the nap areas or the nap rooms in their facilities that are really just, you know, conducive if you are trying to sleep or catch some shut-eye or whatever. This feels more like, hey, nobody's done this. Let's be the cool team to do this and then see what kind of buzz we get from it, much more than actual practicality to it. I don't think it makes a lot of sense. I just simply think they paid for a recruiting advantage until everybody else does it too. And that's what they chose to do it from. And then also, and I mean, this isn't really soapbox. It is what it is. College athletes do not go by that 20-hour rule that you just mentioned. It also shows just the incredible amount of time that these guys spend in the facilities over the course of a week, and how this even becomes this practically necessary thing, even if it is a benefit to the players.
Sure. It also shows you that, hey, we got all this money laying around. We got to spend it. Can't give it to the players. It's silly. And you're right, but they'll get some buzz out of it, because will it impress 16 and 17-year-old kids? Sure. And it'll impress them, and they'll talk about it on social media, and there'll be meetings in athletic departments all over the SEC about, hey, do we need to do this? What do we need to do? And, you know, it's that the facilities rat race, excuse me, it never really slows down. You are either improving your facility at all times or you're falling behind. I mean, Ole Miss is an example of that. It wasn't all that long ago, really, that people looked at the Manning Center and said it was cutting edge, state of the art. Is a huge advantage. Houston Nutt talked about it all the time when he got there because it was better than what they had at Arkansas. And now it's not as good as what they have at Arkansas or what they have at a lot of places. And so Ole Miss has to start thinking about in the next few years, redoing this and adding to this and building a new this and justifying where that money comes from. But if you don't do it, it's hard to compete on the recruiting trail. And there's just a lot there. It's a complicated thing. And frankly, at some point, here's where it always amuses me. If I were to go to pick an NFL team, any NFL team, go to their facility, Carolina Panthers. If I go to the Carolina Panthers facility, and that's where those guys work, they don't have a 20-hour rule. They go, they have meetings, they practice, they have more meetings. They're there all day long. It's a job. It's a real job, all jokes aside. Their facilities are nowhere near as good as the majority of SEC schools have facilities. So many of the facilities, so many of the things that are done really aren't necessary. They're just recruiting tools.
For Ole Miss, what's interesting about them, and let's just take the Manning Center, the practice facilities, they still have one of the most functional spots. Not everybody's got a 100-yard field. Everything's in one place. It is very day-to-day functional still to this day in 2019. It simply does not have the bells and whistles. The locker room looks outdated and kind of is outdated for a number of reasons. Again, bells and whistles. And then two, the new school's kind of this dark, edgy, flashy look, whereas Ole Miss is really, really bright and just, I don't know, it looks out of place to this generation in a way. It's probably, though, if you're at a spot like Ole Miss where money's not just hanging around everywhere because of a lot of different reasons, it's kind of hard to throw that level of money at something that is simply a recruiting tool and not something that is going to improve your day-to-day functionality in any standpoint whatsoever.
Sure. It's where the people who ultimately are responsible for them getting into this NCAA mess, forget the wins and the recruits. It cost you all that TV money. I mean, not TV money, all the bowl money, all the postseason money.
$16 million.
Now is not the time to be financially strapped. I mean, we talked about this on Greatest Pod in the South. Auburn just, there was a big kerfuffle about Ole Miss cutting its athletics budget and stuff, and it's my understanding that the way that was reported was pretty over-dramatized and wasn't necessarily accurate. Certainly wasn't completely accurate. But Auburn's cutting their budget 10%. A lot of schools are cutting their athletics budgets. Got to cut some of the fat. People are preparing for the cord cutting. People are preparing for how difficult it is to actually get people to go to their games, to sit in the stands, to go to games, all those things. Now's not the time to be short of cash. If you're a program like Ole Miss that's at least perceptibly unstable, we've talked about this a lot, about what happens if they lose early, what happens with the coaching staff. They've got all these coaches with big contracts. What do? Now's probably not the time to build all of the bells and whistles that aren't necessary. But on the flip side, and this is that chicken and the egg argument, if you don't build the bells and whistles, at some point you're not cool to go to. It gets harder and harder to recruit. And if you can't recruit, it makes it harder and harder to win. So there is a little bit of a vicious circle there. And look, I don't think LSU's going to get some recruiting advantage because they have lockers that turn into beds in their locker room. I really don't. I don't think it's going to move the needle at all on a real decision. But it does sort of, like you said, serve as kind of another point where you have to look at it and say, okay, well, let's reevaluate our facilities and what do we need to do to not only make them more functional, but to make them cool to the people that we're trying to sell to, and that's 16 and 17-year-old boys.
It's always something. It used to be Alabama and their little waterfall thing. Now it's LSU in a bed. It was Texas when they spent, what was it, like $1 million a locker or something when they did theirs?
Yeah. It's always something, and you have to be careful that you don't, A, just completely fall for it, but B, you can't completely ignore it either, where you say, oh, well, this won't matter. This won't change anything. And then something else happens, and something else happens, and something else happens. And before you know it, you're way behind.
Yeah, you can slow down, you can turn, but you can't ever get off the road. Ever.
No, and you gotta understand where you are in the league that you're in. This is the league you play in. This is the division you play in. It's going to be that way for the foreseeable future. That's who you compete with. I mean, I've said this all along. I think it's one of the few things I've been consistent about. When you're Ole Miss, you don't have to have a big picture view. You've got to look at what LSU, Alabama, Auburn, Arkansas, Texas A&M, and Mississippi State do. That's who you compete against. Those 6 programs. And if they're doing it and you're not, you got to reevaluate. You got to make sure you're on that island for the right reasons. Because if they're doing all these bells and whistles and they're leaving you in the dust, you've got to consider going out and getting the bells and whistles, even if the bells and whistles aren't particularly practical.
In all seriousness, it's a very tough spot for Keith Carter or whomever the next AD is, or the chancellor or whatever, because I don't know what the facilities answer is right now for Ole Miss. They've done a ton. They've done this Forward Together campaign. They've had a lot of additions to the stadium. Some have been well received, some haven't. The Manning Center's had some stuff done, but no huge renovation in a while. It's a strange spot when it looks like, all facility stuff comes through private funding and all those things because you don't use the operating budget, obviously. The softball program is probably somewhat next up on the block for renovations. I mean, to this point, obviously basketball got the pavilion, and otherwise, from a tangible how it's impacted things, baseball's been number 2 even ahead of football for a while with the way they've done some renovation stuff.
Yeah, they're going to have to put. This isn't popular. It's not politically correct, but football pays the bills.
Oh yeah.
And if you don't have football going, it's really tough to make the other things happen. And I'm not saying they're behind in football. I really don't know from a facility standpoint.
No, I don't think anything's critical. I'm just watching everybody. It's a cycle, and I'm seeing everybody else jump ahead in that cycle right now.
Yeah, I don't think they can afford to fall behind. It's like I've said before, even when you're competing at a place like Ole Miss, even when you are maximizing everything, it's a tough gig, because of the people you're competing against. Some of them simply have more resources than you. It's not a criticism, it's just a fact. So when you're at a place like Ole Miss, I think you've got to kind of be cutting edge as it pertains to facilities and practice stuff and tools and all that bells and whistles and shiny stuff. I kind of think you got to be kind of cutting edge. And so I'm not saying they aren't, but you can't afford to fall behind. And you can giggle a little bit at beds and locker rooms as it pertains to LSU, but after you get through giggling, you probably have to sit back and say, hey, do we need to look into that? What do we need to do? What is there something we can do that kind of makes us a little more popular, a little cooler, a little flashier, a little more attractive? You got to do those things. And like you said, it's a tough spot to be in when you're recovering from an NCAA colonoscopy.
Just curious, doesn't really go in line, but there is no line today of what we're talking about. Did you ever watch the trailer?
I did.
What'd you think?
Did. Looking forward to seeing the movie.
Okay.
I anticipate being entertained.
We can't get too far down in the weeds on reality. We've just got to sit back and let it come to us, right? Like, don't overthink this.
I mean, no, go to one of those theaters where you can get a beer and chill out, sit back, and be entertained. Because really, you're just asking to be entertained for 2 hours. That's really. We've talked about this many times. I'm not going to the movie to see a reality to see real stuff. If I do that, I'll watch a documentary.
Or The Bachelor.
If I want to see, or The Bachelor. I mean, and that's not real either. That's entertainment. Just entertain me. Am I entertained? People make fun of The Bachelor. If I watch The Bachelor tonight and for an hour and a half I'm entertained, it's worth it.
What I liked about the trailer... Go ahead, finish.
In many ways, it's what college athletics has to figure out, right? you got to make sure that when you bring people to a football game or a basketball game or whatever, you got to make sure they're entertained, that it was worth it, that when they get back in the car to go back home, that the people in the back seat go, that was fun, can't wait to do that again.
Yeah, that's a deal for it's the quest for Ole Miss to find out how to make not just the father or the kid or whomever. Everybody in that family has to have something they enjoy from a football weekend to put the time and the resources and discretionary income and the whole thing into it. And then when it's over, every one of them's got to go, yeah, that's pretty good. Because, I mean, all cliches aside or anything else, I mean, you're only as strong as kind of the weakest link on getting back up there 7 times in a year. So you have to make sure it's entertaining for everybody and that every bit of the experience is something that they, or not every bit of the experience, but there are bits of the experience that they can't get just sitting in front of the TV or sitting with the cooler of beer next to you at the recliner or that whole deal. And I mean, we've talked about this for years. That's a tough sell. That's a thing. And, you know, it's where it comes into kind of it's where college football can use the pageantry and some of the history and stuff. Because I'm kind of playing back to Top Gun here for a second, as crazy as this seems. When I watched that, all I saw was all the, you know, the old stuff, the nostalgia, kind of pulled on your heartstrings a little bit. And that's what I want to see in Top Gun. I want you to act like we're still in 1989 or 86 or whatever it was. You know what I mean? Like, I like that there was that. I mean, you are putting me back in that world. Don't put me in a new world. Send me back to that world. That's all I care about.
That movie came out,
I think it was 86.
I think it was 87.
Okay.
I think it, because if I remember right, and I might not, but the reason it was nostalgic for me is it came out the summer of before my senior year in high school. That movie was apparently the hot thing because our whole season was like
May 12th, 1986.
Okay. Well, then we were rusting. We were a year behind. We wanted to be the Top Gun in Louisiana and stuff. That was like, maybe it was my junior year. I can't remember. But, you know, it was like our part of our, like, theme for the year was Top Gun and all that stuff. So I remembered it. You say, yeah, it's nostalgic. You remember going to the movie and you remember all that stuff, and it was a big part of the culture and all of that. And yeah, so it was nostalgic. I'll go back and see it. I can suspend reality for 2 hours and know that in reality, those characters probably still wouldn't be up there, you know, flying fighter jets. I can suspend that reality for 2 hours with absolutely no problem at all.
The first Top Gun in '86, it had a budget of $15 million, and it made $15 million, and it made $356 million in the theaters.
Those people can get pretty nostalgic too. That's quite a profit.
Yeah, in today's money, the budget was $34.3 million, and in today's money, it made $815 million.
Yeah, I'd say they take that.
I would say that would work.
That if they could pull it off.
Speaking of box office success, remakes, sequels, however you want to put it, we're all over the place. There's no football going on. The Lion King, the animated edition with a huge opening, just 3 days. Opening 3 days did $185 million across 4,700 theaters in North America.
Is it getting good reviews so far?
My 3-year-old sat there for the full 2 hours, which means something.
All right, tells you a lot.
Yeah, I mean, she's not even really 3.5. She just is 3. She turned 3 late March, and I was not there, but she was taken to the movies on Saturday, and apparently, other than getting a little grumpy around the previews, which makes a lot of sense for any 3-year-old, and it not being a cartoon, it being, I mean, you know, obviously it's whatever, but it's live action. Apparently, yeah, she did not look away and was fine for a movie that was 1 hour and 58 minutes. That's pretty impressive.
Wow.
That's something in and of itself right there.
Well, you know they put that in front of some focus groups before they released it and ran the risk of a complete disaster.
Yeah, let's see. I had.
That's good.
Yeah, no, I'm good. Let's see. I had. I thought I had some worldwide numbers, but either way, yeah, it's been a huge success. It's the second second biggest opening weekend this season, behind also Disney's, and Marvel's Avengers Endgame, which did $357 million.
I was in Chicago. I saw a lot of Lion King stuff. So I knew it was taking over the weekend. I didn't go see it. Obviously, we didn't go to a movie, but I'll go check it out. I still haven't seen the new Toy Story either, so I still have some movies to catch up on. Might do that in the next couple of weeks.
Take a quick break here and tell you about Community Mortgage. We told you for a couple of every weeks now that interest rates are as low as they've been in about the last 2 years. Maybe it's time to refinance. Maybe it's time to purchase. Just get a look at what Jason can do for you if you're one of their four areas: Oxford, Memphis, Soto County, or Chattanooga. You can find him at 662-234-2704 or JLOWE at communitymtg.com.
The podcast is also brought to you by our friends at Dead Soxy. Again, go to deadsoxy.com, enter the promo code Rebel Grove at checkout. You get 30% off all orders, including the sale items, including the no-shows, which would feel really good right about now. Deadsoxy.com, promo code Rebel Grove, get 30% off all orders. You don't want to miss 1 minute of the action at the Vault this season. Ole Miss football arrives this September. September the 7th, I think, it's the opener against Arkansas, the home opener. Reserve your season tickets with the new 2019 season ticket pricing for just $299. For more information, visit OleMissTix.com. Podcast also brought to you by Pinnacle Trust based in Madison, Mississippi. They provide detailed, specialized investment management, financial planning, retirement planning for individuals and businesses, and much more. They also have the Pinnacle Trust 401k advisory services. If your company is not particularly happy with the 401k plan that you have set up, it's not performing the way that you want it to perform, it's a headache, get in touch with the people at Pinnacle Trust. They're Pinnacle Trust Retirement Plan Advisory Team. They specialize in a lot of different plans, 401k plans, 403b plans, whatever you might need. That initial consultation is free. It's pintrust.com, PINN trust.com. Podcast also brought to you by the Westin Jackson, home to Soul Spa, the ultimate luxury spa experience in downtown Jackson, and also Estelle Wine Bar and Bistro, where you can get a creative craft cocktail, enjoy the curated wine list, and enjoy Chef Caden's many fantastic offerings there at Estelle Wine Bar and Bistro. Podcast also brought to you by John Edwards, Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. A lot of you have used John. You've gone to him. He's part of Virtuoso. And you've gone to him and said, hey, here's kind of what I'm thinking about doing. I've got some ideas. I've got a budget. Here's my budget. Now, what can you do? And so far, John's turned around a lot of trips. A 30th anniversary trip to Italy, Venice, Lake Como, Florence, Rome, a fall trip to Greenbrier, a trip to Alaska for fishing and hiking, bear viewing, all that stuff. He's done a lot of different things. In other words, he really knows the travel business inside and out. Get in touch with him, 901-494-3387, or send him an email, jedwards@regencytravel.net. First-time clients will save $50 off their first book trip just by telling John you heard about Regency Travel on the podcast. And we're brought to you by Grenada Nissan. If you're in the market for a Nissan vehicle, that's the place to go. Grenada Nissan is in Grenada, Mississippi. It's just off Interstate 55. I've done business with them for more than a decade. They're fantastic. You'll love them too. It's GrenadaNissanUSA.com.
Have you just not had a day for it, or what? I mean, you had that little staycation by yourself. I thought you were going to Toy Story it up.
Yeah, I was going to go to some movies then, and I didn't do it. I just chilled. I told you I was going to chill those days, and I did. And then I went to Birmingham for a few days, and then I had media days. And I got back. I was home for less than 24 hours before we left for Chicago, and I'm driving back now. I've just been busy, man. I've been traveling.
Are you tired?
In the world. No, I'm actually kind of refreshed.
Are you really?
Yeah. Kind of energized.
I don't do that. When I take trips, I've got to almost kind of have a couple days after the trip to get my bearings back.
Carson's really easy. Carson's really laid back. He's really easy to travel with. And I woke up early, and we were at a Homewood Suites. So I let him have the bed, and I used the pull-out because I could wake up and close his doors, and I could have some coffee, and I could get awake and stuff. And then go down and get him breakfast and bring it back to the room, and then I'd go work up, and then I got back, and then we'd get out and do our things. I'm recharged.
I saw a photo. You sent it to myself and Jeffrey. So you've purchased your first Bears jersey?
No, I didn't buy the jersey.
Oh, you didn't?
I didn't buy it. We were just, Carson and I were goofing around in the Nike store, putting on jerseys and stuff.
So you put on a jersey you didn't buy?
I put on 2 jerseys I didn't buy.
Oh. It
Put
looked...
on the orange one.
I mean, if you're going to go to a game this fall, you got to get a jersey. That's an NFL thing.
Yeah. I might get one. I'll tell you what really threw me off was we went to the Bears store. We went to the Bears store at Soldier Field, and their litany of throwbacks, because this is their 100th season, so they got the 100 patch and all that stuff. Their litany, they have several really good-looking throwback jerseys, but it's one of those deals where you hate to spend money on a throwback jersey that the next season you really wouldn't be able to wear it again.
You could still wear it.
You could still wear it, and then I wondered, do I really need to be wearing a football jersey?
Well, no, and I don't either, and I typically don't. But it is more socially acceptable with the pro level than the college level. Let me put it that way.
Oh, you go to a pro game and you'll see freaking CEOs wearing NFL jerseys.
Yeah. It's just commonplace.
Yeah. So I was trying to decide, do I want just the traditional?
Well, look, nobody looks good in them, but it's just acceptable for everybody.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I was so I tried to decide. At the point that I was thinking about getting one, I was trying to decide, do I look better in the orange one or the blue one? And I realized I didn't look good in either of them. But I don't know, I couldn't decide.
The answer is blue because it's kind of muted. Like that orange, that's bright, dude.
It was bright. I like the one I really like is the white one with the old school stripes that they're doing for a couple of the games this year. That's a good looking jersey now.
What'd you have on? You sent us Khalil Mack?
Yeah.
Was it Khalil? Yeah. That's what I thought. You
and
want
I put on a...
Go ahead.
I put on an orange Trubisky jersey.
Okay. Well, Trubisky would be safer from a longevity standpoint.
Yeah, he's going to be their guy for a while, I'm guessing. But everybody has him. Although in Chicago, you can get the Trubisky jersey. It's hard to find the Mac jerseys. They're flying off the shelves. He's pretty popular.
Bad news for you and your fandom. I just clicked on this a second ago. Bill Barnwell with, it's called NFL Fact Check. 7 things that are likely to happen this NFL season. And one of them is, let me find it, it was Bears related. Don't be surprised if, ... the Bears takeaway rate nosedives. He is talking about Chicago's defense may not be as good because they are not going to get as fortunate with turnovers this season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Barnwell knows nothing. We're going to dominate. I mean, anything less than 14-2 will be a dramatic disappointment.
Well, that's why the Saints should bench Breeze when they head to Chicago, because it's not a winnable game anyway. So why play?
Yeah,
let Teddy play.
I wouldn't even. If I were the Saints, I would not even bring Breeze to Chicago. I'd let him stay home, hang out with the kids, play that game where he throws. He can keep his arm sharp by throwing the passes to his kids while they dive on the couch. All that stuff. There's no reason for him to make that trip to Soldier Field.
Yeah, Barnwell wraps up it's a lot of stuff about the Bears, but then he says, I still think they'll be good on defense, of course, but it's tough to see them topping 30 takeaways for the second consecutive season. There's not a strong year-to-year relationship for interception rate, and interceptions on the whole continue to decline. No team has posted an interception rate of 4% or more in back-to-back seasons since the Packers in 2010-2011. That was only 8 years ago, but from 2011 to 2018, the league's interception rate fell from 2.9% to 2.4%. That's fascinating to me in and of itself, because the NFL has become a much more downfield passing league over the last decade or so, and if interceptions continue to fall, wouldn't that wouldn't that say we are developing more quarterback play as things and getting at least more consistent quarterback play across the league? Which is also obvious because if you start counting, hey, how many quarterbacks are really, really good, you only get to about 10 before it gets a little shaky.
It also tells you that passing games are getting really efficient. Even though you're going downfield, it's a lot of more intermediate routes.
Yeah.
Where the Bears create a lot of, and Barnwell knows this, and I mean, all jokes aside, where the Bears create issues for opposing teams is Mac is so good off the edge. Their front is very good, and then where they have a chance to actually improve on elements of their defense is Roquan Smith. If he makes the jump next season that some people think he's going to make, they're going to be difficult to move the football against. They're going to be difficult to run against, and then also it's going to be difficult to protect your quarterback when you have that many weapons kind of getting after him. But they've already had an injury, like I saw where Clinton Dix is going to miss the start of camp. He's trying to get over an injury that he suffered at the end of the offseason. So, man, it's the NFL where injuries are such a big part of what ultimately happens. It's why predicting what a team's going to do in Week 11 is almost impossible right now.
So this is kind of interesting, and this might be a fantasy thing for some of you guys listening as you're getting your teams sorted out in the next month or so. It says the sports books in Vegas posted a prop bet for the Bears defense in 2019 and set the over-under on their takeaway total at 26. That would still rank among the likely league leaders, given that it would be a drop-off of 10 takeaways from Chicago's mark of 2018. If we're looking for a team that might lead the league in interception rate in 2019, I would look for opportunistic defenses that ranked in the middle of the pack a year ago. That points toward the Vikings, the Chargers, or the Jaguars that were the big turnover takeaway machine 2 years ago in the NFL. So a couple teams there for people to watch: Chargers, Vikings, and Jaguars. Barnwell's good.
Seems like we've been watching for the Chargers for the better part of a decade.
Well, they were good last year.
They were good.
I mean, they didn't beat Kansas City, but they were good.
Yeah, I mean, they were good.
Or no, was it Kansas City? Who beat them?
New England beat them, right?
Yeah, New England beat them. You're right. Yeah, whatever. Well, this is one of the things, and if a lot of people are going to take Mahomes very high, and certainly like him, Barnwell's very next topic is don't be surprised if ... Patrick Mahomes is better on deep balls this season.
They're going to be awfully good. I mean, it's difficult to look at the AFC playoff picture going into the season, kind of projecting it, and not have Kansas City in the AFC title game.
It's still a little ways from me to really get into it and get locked in. I'm not there yet.
No, because the season doesn't start until September the 7th when the Bears and Packers play.
Is that who it is? Bears Packers?
I think it's Bears Packers that first Thursday night.
I thought it was always the NFL champions. Is that not a thing anymore?
I thought that was always a thing, but I'm telling you what my understanding is. I could be wrong. Maybe it's the Patriots.
You're exactly right. Packers Bears September 5th at 7:20.
September 5th.
The Patriots play. The Patriots have the Sunday night game against the Steelers.
Okay.
Week 1. And then your 2 Monday night games are the Texans at the Saints and the Broncos at the Raiders.
Huh.
Yeah.
I'm interested in all of those.
You're interested in Broncos at Raiders?
I've got NFL bug a little bit, man. I mean, all jokes aside, last year, just having a team, even though, I wasn't as locked into it as I pretended to be, even though just having a team made that season more fun.
Which is going to make you watch just the random game more, in your opinion?
Yeah, I did. I watched more random games last year. Because I've always said I have a soft spot for the Saints. I mean, I'm not going to jump on that wagon because it's just not the right thing to do. It's not fair to all the people who were Saints fans forever. But I like the Saints. I watch the Saints. They interest me. I got interested in the Chiefs last year because they were interesting, and you know, I live with the focus group, and he likes Mahomes. Kids like Mahomes, so Mahomes is fun. I followed Cleveland because of Jeffrey, and frankly, Baker Mayfield's fun. And then you're forced to see the Titans when you don't have the package. I think I'm going to get the package this year.
Well, hey, the good news, though, the Titans do open at Cleveland. So.
Oh, that is good.
Hey, you get the Browns week 1, bud.
The Titans are just boring over the course of the season. But so I watched a lot more NFL last year than I had, man, I bet in 20 years.
Yeah, I'm looking at week 1 here, and I mean, whatever, we'll do this 7,000 times. The Rams are the good team that's kind of getting messed over from a week 1. They're not even at home. They play a noon game at Carolina to open the season.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Rams at Panthers to open the year. They're the only one that's kind of, you look at it and go, eh.
It might tell you a little bit about the ratings that they get.
That nobody cares, so don't put them in prime time?
They might be the really good team that nobody likes to watch.
And that's funny because they're a really fun team just from a football standpoint.
Well, I mean, those games that get on Sunday night are on Sunday night for a reason.
Well, but I mean, look at this, though. I mean, even week 2, and you would think this would be appointment television. They would have found a way to flex this thing into prime time. In week 2, the Saints are at the Rams, and it's a 4:25 game that is sharing a time slot with the Bears and the Broncos.
Really?
Yeah. In week 2, the Chiefs, the Saints, and the Bears and the Rams all play at 4:25.
What's the Sunday night game in week 2?
Eagles at Falcons.
Yeah, it doesn't do a lot for me.
Well, but the Saints are on Monday night the week before.
Yeah, so they couldn't get a Sunday night.
Basically Monday Night Football picked the Saints home opener as one of their games.
And the Bears were on Thursday night the week before, so they can't be a primetime game.
Yeah. And your Monday game is Browns at Jets in week 2.
Browns at Jets?
Yeah.
So you get Mayfield versus Sam Darnold.
Yeah. The Bears are the Monday night game in week 3. The Rams are the... Oh, here's you a game. This is actually going to be a really fun game. And I'm not going through the whole freaking NFL schedule. I'm going to stop. But at... let's see. Let me find it. Just overall, this day is kind of fun in week 3. So at 4:25, you get Saints at Seahawks, which has a chance to be a pretty good game. And then your Sunday night game is Rams at Browns. And then your Bears are on Monday night.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, you get Saints Seahawks at your afternoon Sunday game, Rams Browns, and then Bears at Redskins on Monday Night Football.
I'll watch all 3 of those.
Yeah, that's good. And even better on your week, the Titans play on Thursday night, so you even get a different 1:00 game on Sunday.
Oh wow, you're costing DirecTV some money right now.
Your Sunday game is probably going to be on let's see, the AFC game. Let's just take a shot in the dark. I'm going to say your AFC game is Jets at Patriots. Not doing much for you, but it's either going to be Jets, Patriots, or Ravens, Chiefs.
So see, what I typically do on Sunday is I've tried to get 10 thoughts done by kickoff of the 3:25 games.
Oh, no. Actually, I know exactly what your game is. Your game on Sunday that day is Falcons at Colts. Sorry. Falcons-Colts.
And I might watch some of that. I like Andrew Luck. I sort of cheer for him.
Yeah, you're gonna get Falcons-Colts, and you're gonna get Dolphins-Cowboys at 1:00.
Yeah.
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 The only interesting part of the Dolphins is Larry Tunsil. That's it.
Yeah, and it's hard to watch an NFL game on TV so that you can watch the left tackle. I know your brother would disagree, but
oh, you can't. No, it's impossible. It's not a thing.
Yeah, you can do that live. You can sit in a press box and go, I'm going to watch the offensive line. You can do it. I've done it. I do it the first series of every game. But you can't – it's hard to do that on television. On TV, you're going to watch the ball because the camera is going to show you the ball.
I think the Dolphins have a chance to be one of the worst teams in the league. I want to say it was SI that picked them at 3-13 when they did every NFL game forecasted the other day.
Yeah, I don't think they have a whole lot going for them from what I've seen. But so they'll be one of those teams that has to decide, is it worth it to tank for Tua?
They can't get their stuff together. I do think they would become a little bit of a brand and a fun team if they could win a little. Just do.
The Dolphins?
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, a lot of tradition, and they're in Miami, and they play in an interesting division, a high-profile division, and cool uniforms and all that stuff. Yeah, there's a lot going for them. They just haven't been good.
SI picked your go ahead.
If Cleveland ever gets good, I mean, if this Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham thing works out, that's must-watch television every week.
Yeah. So the guy from Sports Illustrated, he picked every NFL game. He just looked at a blank NFL schedule and picked winners and losers. He has your Bears at 10-6, behind the Vikings at 11-5 in the North.
Well, he's obviously an idiot. We're winning the North.
Okay. Actually, he has that missing the playoffs at 10-6.
He's an idiot.
Let's see. He has just for fun and giggles. In the East, he has the Eagles winning at 11-5. He has the Cowboys at 8-8, not getting in. Giants 6-10. Washington 5-11. Vikings at 11-5, winning the division. Bears at 10-6, but not getting in. Packers 8-8. Lions 4-12. Has the Falcons winning the South at 11-5, but the Saints grabbing the other wild card spot at 10-6. Panthers 5-11, Buccaneers 3-13, and then Rams at 13-3, and the Seahawks getting in at 11-5 with a wild card.
Yeah, I think the Saints are winning the South. I think they're better than the Falcons. I don't know what the Falcons' love is all about, really. Just me. I'd still rather have Drew Brees than Matt Ryan, and it's a quarterback league.
The Bears have these couple stretches in their season, which is interesting. They have a stretch where they play New Orleans, the Chargers, and the Eagles at Philadelphia, back, and then they have another stretch where they have to play the Packers, Chiefs, and Vikings back to back.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a first-place schedule, and all jokes aside, it's a really difficult slate. They've got the Saints, they've got the Rams, they've got the Cowboys, the Chiefs. It's a tough schedule.
And the Vikings are going to be good.
The Vikings are going to be good. The Lions are not going to be good. The Packers probably are not going to be all that good. So it's a winnable division. Those games against Minnesota will be absolutely huge. And it just really, again, it's a quarterback league. It really depends on the progress that Trubisky does or doesn't make. If he makes another jump like he made last year, he becomes a borderline, not elite quarterback, but he gets really good. And given the defense that they have, he's plenty good enough. But he's got to become more accurate. He's got to become more consistent. They won a bunch of games last year, and they're fun. And, you know, it's one of the more probably intimidating venues in the league when they're good. So it's fun. I can tell you this, throughout Chicago, there was more Bears stuff. I mean, we've made this trip multiple summers. There was more Bears stuff around and more Bears chatter and stuff in July than I can remember hearing. And years and years and years.
Tell you about Mastercuts Lawn and Landscape, premium lawn care throughout northern Mississippi, but they offer a lot more as well. They build custom playgrounds, retaining walls, pool decks, outdoor living spaces with paper patios, forestry mulching, and much more. You can find them online at gomastercuts.com or get a free quote with the phone number 662-607-7773. Again, that's gomastercuts.com.
We're also brought to you by Harry Alexander. Harry's an Oxford-based RE/MAX legacy realty agent, big part of Savannah Square, 9-acre development that's 0.7 of a mile from the Oxford downtown square. It's located east of North Lamar, a short stroll from the Midtown Shopping Center. You can check out the model home at 215 William Street. Then you can get in touch with Harry at 662-801-5621. It's Savannah Square, Oxford.com. The Oxford Park Commission currently registering for youth flag football and the fall baseball season. Leagues are open for ages 6 to 12 in football and 6 to 15 in baseball. The cost to sign up for football is $50. It's just $40 for baseball. Each sport will be played at F&C Park. For more details, go to oxfordparkcommission.com. Podcast also brought to you by Oxford University Bank, OUB, locally owned and operated right here in Oxford. When you deposit money at OUB, that money and the vast majority of the bank's profits go right back into the Oxford community. It's home to Kasasa, the absolute best cash checking account. They also have a commercial checking account now paying 1% interest on the account as long as you keep $10,000 in it. It comes with fully interactive online banking. To learn more, go to Live Oxford, bankoxford.com, or call 662-234-6668. OUB is FDIC insured. Everyone loves their pets. No one loves stepping in their pet stuff, and certainly no one loves tracking that stuff back into the house. If you want to eliminate that problem, get in touch with Scoopers Pet Waste Removal, LLC. For $10 of cleaning, they'll clean up your yard. They'll do it on your schedule, whether that's weekly, bi-weekly, or a one-time service. No contracts required. You can cancel at any time. If you have multiple dogs, it's $2 for each additional dog. It's scoopers.oxfordpetwaste@gmail.com or 662-506-2754. Scoopers Pet Waste Removal, they're number one and your pet's number two business. And we're brought to you by 7 South Tailgating. 7 South is the premier tailgating service provider at Ole Miss. They offer your standard tailgating services such as tent, table, and chair setup, breakdown, but they also offer so much more. They'll set up, break down, store your own personal gear. You can rent from them. They have cooler service, TV, satellite service, storage bins for supplies, decor, chandeliers, basically everything you could possibly imagine with tailgating. They've got it. Call or go online today for a detailed quote customized to your specific needs. 662-321-1682 or visit 7southtailgating.com.
Podcast also brought to you by G&M Pharmacy there on South Lamar in Oxford. They deliver local to your home or workplace in the Oxford area. They also offer MedSync, which means they fill your prescriptions the same day of the month, every single month, to make it easy on you. 662-236-2222 is the phone number, and while you're in there, if something you're interested in or want more information on, you can find out more about the sildenafil. It is their cheaper alternative to other brands. Rating as little as 15 minutes. You can break those pills into a half, into a quarter if needed. And you can even get discretion if that is required as well. You can just go to TysonDrugs.com or G&MPharmacy.com. Click Product Request and request a prescription right there online. So
Maybe ever.
So did you go to 2 games?
We went to 3 games. We went to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Cubs won 2 close games on Friday and Saturday. We had the whole Craig Kimbrell experience. And then on Sunday, the Padres kind of blew it open late. They won 5-1. It was 1-1 in the 7th. And Padres took a 2-1 lead and then blew it open in the 8th.
How was the trip?
No, blew it open in the 9th. It was great. It was awesome. We had a really good time. We had the complete Chicago weather experience. It was warm Friday, and everybody told us Saturday was going to be hot, like hot, and it was. It was so hot Saturday during the game, hot and bright. We were sitting in the lower section, first baseline, and like you get up. I don't think you've been to Wrigley, right?
I have not, no.
Okay, so we got out and into the concourse, which is kind of dark, really. And not only took my eyes 5 minutes to adjust from the bright, and I was wearing sunglasses, from the bright to the dark, but I almost got lightheaded. It was so hot. And then in the 7th inning, a front blew through, and I kid you not. So with the game, when it started, the heat index was 107. And at the end of that game, we were kind of chilly. In the 7th inning, the front blew through so fast that everybody cheered it. It wasn't like a precipitous drop. It was instant. It went from 100 degrees to 70 degrees in less than a minute. No joke.
And was very thankful for that.
Oh, yeah. It felt so good. It felt so good. I mean, but you were soaked from sweat, and then it comes through, and now you're cold. It was the most bizarre thing. And then yesterday at the game, we were cold. I mean, no joke, we were cold. It was bizarre.
What jerseys did Carson go with this weekend?
He didn't wear a jersey the whole time. He was going to wear his Baez jersey yesterday, but he says it's getting too small.
Okay.
So he went with his dry fit, and it was too hot for a jersey Friday and certainly Saturday.
That sounds like a ploy to get more jerseys. Jersey's too small. It's time to re-up.
I told him I'd get him a new one yesterday, and he said he'll just wait for his birthday. So I guess that's what he wants for his birthday.
Did he take advantage of the Nike store?
Yeah, he got some stuff, but they didn't. He was really disappointed they didn't have one of his highlights of that store has always been the big soccer area, and they've shut it down.
What does that mean?
Not a stitch of soccer. I don't know. Not a stitch of soccer to be found in the Nike store on Michigan Avenue. Lots of bears, lots of bulls, a lot of running gear, a lot of women's stuff, a lot of basketball shoes. Yeah, no soccer at all, and very little baseball. Very little Cubs or Sox. I mean, they used to have a lot of college stuff, really no college stuff. They used to have like a lot of Notre Dame and Michigan and Northwestern and stuff. Really kind of none of that.
So you couldn't get a Shea Patterson jersey?
No, didn't get one at the Nike store. No Shea Patterson or whoever's going to beat him out for the job. None of that.
I saw that. Is there potentially a controversy up there?
Apparently there's going to be competition, which can't make Mr. Patterson all that happy.
Yeah, didn't.
Not sure that was part of the deal that got discussed at the Huddle House or wherever it was where'd they meet?
IHOP. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think, hey Shea, you're going to be competing for your job your senior year was part of the sales pitch.
What's Harbaugh's motivation there? Because he's going to play Patterson.
I don't know. I mean, look, I'm not the great football expert, but I watched Patterson against Ohio State last year, and he didn't cost them the game, but he didn't do anything to help them win the game either. And my one criticism of Shea, if I'm honest about it, when he was at Ole Miss, and I said this to you a few times, I don't know that I ever said it all that publicly because I wanted to continue to be able to feed my family. He was really good against bad teams. I mean, he tore bad teams up.
Christmas tree.
He would light ULM or South Alabama or Central, whoever, oh man, he looked like a gazillion dollars. It's funny, he didn't look so good against SEC teams. That wasn't all his fault, obviously, but it was notable. That trend continued last year at Michigan.
Yeah, if he doesn't take some huge step, he just is what he is. And that's not a bad quarterback, but it's not he's not shown the ability to go will you into wins either.
Well, yeah, it's people doing this NFL thing with Shea Patterson, but he's not an NFL quarterback. He's just not. I mean, listen, most quarterbacks aren't NFL quarterbacks. There are quarterbacks who are going to be quarterbacks in the NFL who aren't NFL quarterbacks, but he's not an NFL quarterback.
Yeah,
he's not playing in the no way.
Shea does not have that Chad Kelly gene to him.
No, he can't make those throws. And Chad's not an NFL quarterback.
No, that's what I mean. I mean, he's
one.
even another little tick there. Another tick.
Yeah, you've got to be. But there's nothing when you watch Shea that makes you go, yeah, he could be a Trubisky, or he could be a Luck, or he could be. I'm not even naming the elite NFL quarterbacks. He could be Matt Ryan. There's nothing makes you think he could. No. He could be a Garofalo. No, he can't. He is none of those. That skill set is not evident when you watch him play good teams. When you watch him play Northwestern or Wisconsin or top Big Ten teams, not even counting Ohio State. He doesn't light those teams up. Now, when he plays the opener against Central Michigan or something, looks like $1 gazillion. Looks great. But when he plays defenses that have speed at linebacker, different creature.
Pulling up
and that's not knocking him. It's a hard quarterback. It's a hard position to play.
Yeah, I mean, it just is.
The reason that NFL teams pay. Yeah, there's a reason NFL teams pay elite quarterbacks $1 gazillion.
Here's their schedule this season, just for the heck of it, because it's July 22nd. They open against Middle Tennessee State in Ann Arbor. They stay home and play Army. Here's the first test. September 21st, they go to Wisconsin. So he'll be at Madison that day.
Wisconsin. Yeah, that'll be a test. Wisconsin's typically pretty good.
Rutgers back at home. Iowa back at home.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll cheer for Michigan against Rutgers.
Oh, after the Rustin thing?
Yeah, I hate Rutgers more than I hate anybody.
You can copyright a block letter?
I mean, who knew? And how petty do you have to be to go after a high school in north central Louisiana?
Yeah, I mean, come on. From a context standpoint, there's never any name difficulty there. Come on, ever.
Yeah, I mean, do you really think the people at Ruston High School were like, "Hey, we're gonna sell some Ruston gear off this Rutgers thing"? Man, if you went to Ruston and asked 100 random people, "Where is Rutgers?" 3 out of 100, maybe.
Ooh, really? You think it's that low?
Yeah. If I asked 100 random people in Oxford today, where is Rutgers? What state is Rutgers in?
Oh, you mean just the state? I thought you meant the city and the state.
Oh, I think if you asked them, where is it in Piscataway?
Yeah, it's Piscataway.
If I were to ask 100 random people in Oxford, what city is Rutgers in? I don't think 3 would say Piscataway, New Jersey.
Okay.
And if I said what state is Rutgers in, I don't think 10 would say New Jersey. And I'm not making fun of Mississippi people or Louisiana people either. It's just, who the hell cares about Rutgers?
Well, yeah. I mean, that was the dumb thing with the Big Ten when it was like, hey, yeah, let's go grab Rutgers for a TV market. Nobody's watching freaking Rutgers in those markets.
No, when you can watch the Yankees or the Giants or the Mets or the Jets or the Mets or the Rangers or the Island. Come on, stop.
So then he goes to Illinois, where you're almost at right now in Champaign.
I'm way past it. Way past Champaign.
Oh, you kept hauling. Okay.
I kept driving. Yeah, we're now looking for places to stop. In fact, I think we're going to find a place here.
Okay.
In Mattoon.
Mattoon, Illinois.
Mattoon, Illinois, baby.
All right. Michigan's at Penn State the next week, and then they get Notre Dame at home. So tough back-to-back there. Let's see. At Maryland, Michigan State, Indiana, and then they close at home against the aforementioned Buckeyes. There could be some losses on that schedule.
Oh, I think there are losses on that schedule.
That feels very 9-3, 8-4 to me.
you this, not to get off on too big of a Michigan tangent as I get ready to stop for a second. I don't know that Jim Harbaugh can continue to hang in there with a lot of 8-4s.
No, it feels like he's only been. I mean, well, but you can if you throw something else in there, but they're just not a threat.
No, they've got to beat Ohio State here at some point. It's kind of like being the coach at Alabama. You got to beat Auburn. If you're the coach at Auburn, you got to beat Alabama. You can't be an 8-4, 9-3 program that loses that game every single year and keep the gig. It just doesn't work that way.
Which last year they lost. They lost that early game to Notre Dame, right?
Yeah, they lost early. They lost like 3 games, but it's the one at the end that's killing him.
Yeah, they lost the opener to Notre Dame. They ran off 10 in a row, and then Ohio State beat them 62-39.
Yeah,
and then Florida blitzed them in the bowl game.
Yeah, I'm a Michigan fan. It's not what that wasn't the deal.
Yeah. So to kind of wrap it up, the National Baseball Hall of Fame induction ceremonies over the weekend, 2019 inductees: Roy Halladay, obviously he passed away. Edgar Martinez, Mike Mussina, they're from the writers, and then Harold Baines and Lee Smith were part of the Veterans Committee getting in. Really, really happy for Martinez to finally get in. He got 85% of the vote. We talked about this when the vote happened, but just kind of the ceremonies over the weekend. But the two that really stuck out for me, Neal, Rivera, great speech, just really kind of, in a lot of ways, capped a professional baseball life with a speech where he's been such the consummate professional his entire career. And then Roy Halladay's friends and wife and all those speakings. That was I don't know how much you saw or didn't see because you've been gone, but a pretty touching, tough moment over the weekend.
Yeah, I was a big Mariano Rivera fan, so I was happy for him, obviously. And then the Halladay thing, I mean, that just touches you at every personal level. I saw a good bit of his wife's speech taped, and she couldn't have been more graceful. The way she did it, and just I can't imagine what was going through her mind. And she had some time to prepare for it. It was very compelling and touching and all of that. And the cool thing with him over the weekend was to see how both the Blue Jays and the Phillies almost kind of embraced each other a little bit. That he was big parts of both of those organizations and all of that stuff. And you go back and Carson had it on when I got back into the room. They were kind of doing stuff about the different Hall of Fame guys, and you remember some of the big games that Halladay had where he just was unhittable. You couldn't hit him. He was just great. And Martinez was a consummate hitter. We had the old DH discussion, whatever, but he was a great hitter. And Mussina was on my fan. I was in a keeper league forever, and Mussina was, I guess, basically the ace of my staff for years and years and years. And so I would always follow his starts for fantasy baseball purposes, but I don't think people realize how consistent he was for as long as he was. He was never really the best pitcher in the game, but he was a top 10 pitcher for a really long time.
What are you? I mean, obviously he played for the Cubs at one point from Louisiana. What are kind of your remembrances of Lee Smith?
Well, just that he's from North Louisiana too. He's from Arcadia, which is not far from where I grew up. And
so he tried to play basketball at Northwestern State at one point.
I can't remember.
I was looking up a thing on him earlier today, and it said Smith. Let's see. Let me read it here. Said in 1978 with the Class AA minor league Midland Cubs, he struggled as a starter with an ERA near 6, prompting manager Randy Hundley to move him to the bullpen, Smith resisted the move and briefly tried college basketball at Northwestern State University.
I did not know that.
At the behest of former Cubs outfielder Billy Williams, he returned to Midland as a reliever for the '79 season and pitched well enough to earn a promotion to AAA for 1980. And with the Major League Cubs struggling to a last-place finish, he came into the big leagues as a September call-up that season.
Yeah, he was phenomenal, like in '84, probably right around the time that I went from being a little kid that liked the Cubs to being a Kid Carson's age who became obsessed with the Cubs about that time, and he was dominant. I mean, I remember him just coming in as this dominant arm, and you didn't know before you knew anything about spin rates and frankly all that much about velocity and stuff, and you could just tell that he threw the hell out of it. And in that '84 season he was so good, and then he couldn't close out the Padres. I remember he gave up the home run to Steve Garvey at the end of Game 4 to send it to a Game 5. And I don't know. I've met Lee Smith a couple of times, and he's a super guy. It was funny. I read something the other day about when he was with the Reds. He was only with the Reds for 1 year. But in that 1 year with the Reds, he would take their grounds crew guys fishing. He liked to fish. Lee Smith was a country boy. Is a country boy, and he would take the Reds ground crews guys fishing sometimes. They talked about how much of an impact he kind of left in just one season with that organization. So I don't know. He's been at the Cubs convention the last couple of times the 2 times we've been, and he's a huge guy, but seems like a really nice guy. And I don't know. I was happy for him that guys like him get in. He obviously wasn't the closer that Mariano Rivera was, but nobody was. But he had some time there with the Cubs when he was absolutely dominant. He was one of those guys that when he came in the 8th, 9th inning, it was over.
And then Rivera, as known by now, he was also the first player to ever get 100% of the writers' vote getting into the Hall of Fame. Nobody played the game with Rivera. So
yeah, thank God. maybe we're through with the game playing. There's certain guys that just
because we've had some game playing even in recent years. So yeah.
Yeah, it's silly. He was the best closer ever. He's the best closer ever.
I mean, Greg Maddux got 97% of the vote.
That's silly. There's just nothing about Greg Maddux that doesn't. Silly.
I relived before we came on air, I relived a day that I'm sure Neal probably threw up some cuss words on this day in 1997. Speaking of Maddux, that was, I guess, a good while ago, 22 years. He threw a complete game in 77 pitches. They beat the Cubs 4-1. He was with the Braves at the time. He threw 63 strikes out of those 77 pitches in a complete game. So,
yeah, I can't describe to you how difficult it was on me when the Cubs did not re-sign Greg Maddux, and they let Greg Maddux, who had just won the freaking Cy Young Award, they let Greg Maddux walk into free agency and ultimately to the Braves, and how hard it was to see the Braves go on that decade-long run with Greg Maddux essentially as the ace of their staff. That was remarkably hard.
When he goes into free agency, do you still expect a chance, or did you know it was going to be the Braves, or do you even recall kind of your thought as soon as they didn't just initially sign him immediately?
Yeah, I'll tell you when I remember it. They came back from the All-Star break. I was living in Monroe. I was in grad school. They came back from the All-Star break, and they were playing the Pirates to open the second half of the season. And the whole pregame part of the show was about the Cubs and Maddux had shut down talks, and that they had not been able to come to an agreement on an extension. And I thought, are you effing kidding me? Because I just thought, hand him a check and go fill it out. And sure enough, he mopped up the Pirates that night, and the Cubs won the game, and I had that sick feeling in the pit of my stomach that night that he wasn't going to re-sign. And, yeah, I do remember the morning that I heard that he had signed with the Braves, and it wouldn't have mattered. He could have signed with anybody. I was going to be sick about it. But, yeah, I remember that vividly, and then I can remember the front office trying to sell that they had taken that money and spread it out, and they got Jose Guzman. You remember him, Hall of Famer, Jose Guzman.
Oh, yeah.
Hall of Famer Greg Hibbert. They got Hall of Fame closer Dave Smith. And it seems like they signed somebody else with that Greg Maddux money. And that worked out real well.
The Yankees actually offered Maddux $6 million more than the Braves did.
Supposedly, and I don't know this to be true, I think it's true, as things with the Braves got hot, his agent called the Cubs and said, really, one more time, he wants to play in Chicago. This is what we'll do. And the Cubs still wouldn't do it. Because at that point, they had committed some of the money to Jose Guzman.
Well, I mean, when you do that, I mean,
Hall of Famer Jose Guzman.
Oh gosh, was he even was he even the best Guzman? Because you had Juan too.
Yeah, no, he wasn't as good as Juan.
Okay.
And it wasn't his fault. I mean, look, you should never be the guy. Hey, they brought me in to replace Greg Maddux. I mean, it wasn't his fault. That tested my Cub fandom more than anything that's ever happened.
Well, 77 pitches for a complete game is pretty impressive. I'll close on that one.
He was as great of a pitcher in his prime as we will ever see any pitcher be in his prime.
It's less than 9 pitches per inning on average.
Yeah, no, he was an absolute master. Like, we saw Kyle Hendricks pitch yesterday. He gave up 2 runs in 7 innings. It was pretty good. He wasn't great. It was good. And Greg Maddux was Kyle Hendricks on all the steroids. Not real steroids, but figuratively. Greg Maddux was he was an artist, really, pitching. He really was. He was an artist. I'll tell you this as we close. It was kind of fun because Saturday we saw a really probably the most entertaining game that we saw was Saturday. The Cubs won 6-5. This young shortstop for the Padres, Fernando Tatis Jr.
Yep.
Absolutely electric player. So much fun to watch. And Javi Baez in person, breaking. So much fun to watch. That was a fun game. Manny Machado went deep. Hunter Renfroe went deep. Padres have a good young team. If you're a Padres fan, I know there's probably a dozen of you in our listening audience, you got to be pretty excited about your future. They've got some really nice young pieces. You can see them coming together. They're gonna have their say in the National League race in a couple of years, maybe less. Tatis is. I mean, I'm putting him in the same group with like Ronald Acuna and people like that, young players that I'm watching. He's going to be a superstar, and he plays the game with like a flair. He's exciting. I mean, I was cheering against him obviously for 3 days, but he was a lot of fun watching him and Javi Baez and Manny Machado and those guys on the same field at the same time. It was worth the cost of the ticket.
Yeah. We'll let you get on the road. I'll be back in the same place tomorrow, so check out rebelgrove.com in the meantime, and we'll be back.